righty, is everyone able to see this okay?
Yes.
All righty.
Yes.
Well, and you know what? And I sincerely apologize. Something's going, I need to actually get this right on my end. It's not showing the little, I don't know if anybody else has recently gotten a hand of the PowerPoint presenter setup they have. That's really nice. And it shows you like what next slide is coming up. That's what I need to try to get up and running. Here we go. Let's try this one more time. Aha. Alrighty. Again, I apologize. Technology is always great until it wants to act up. Here we are. Alrighty. Thank you again so much, everyone. So again, this is the July quarterly membership meeting. Again, we have a lot to cover today. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Here is our agenda. Like I said, we have a lot of different topics. We're going to hear a little bit about some of the CoC business that we're going to be covering. We're going to be hearing some of updates from the legislative session that we just passed. We're going to be hearing about some great local resources, a couple events that happened recently, and a few updates and announcements for what to expect in the next couple of months. Alrighty. So first off, I have some CoC reporting updates. We have 2 new reports that were just recently published. They are now available on our CoC reports page on the CoC website, or sorry, the Housing Alliance Delaware website. We have the 2024 PIT report we just recently published. As a bit of a refresher too, the PIT count is an annual census count of people experiencing homelessness. It's kind of a snapshot of Delaware's homelessness crisis on just one given night. The system performance report, this is actually mandatory by HUD. They require all CoCs to report on all the different system performance measures annually. This helps better provide assessment as far as how well communities as a whole are addressing homelessness in their state. And this data also allows us to understand the severity of homelessness, evaluate progress on how we're addressing the crisis, and then also identify gaps. And that way we can have more of like a targeted response for those solutions. And again, these are both available on our website. Just to talk a little bit about some of the highlights from these reports. For the 2024 PIT report, we did see a 9% increase in homelessness from last year's PIT count, which is now the highest PIT count on record, excluding those COVID-19 years. 1,358 people were also experiencing homelessness just on the night of the PIT. And of those people, 238 were unsheltered as well. For our fiscal year 23 system performance report, and I should have put this on the slide, but for the reporting timeframe that we're looking at for this is from October 1st, 2022 to September 1st, 2023. That's the timeframe for this reporting. But we saw that about 107 days is the average length of time that somebody is experiencing homelessness. That did decrease by 33 days from our fiscal year 22 report, which is good. As far as people returning to homelessness, we did see about 2% total returns to homelessness within 6 months, and then a 5% total returns within 12 months. For people that experienced homelessness for the first time, we did see about 79%, which is a 1% increase from fiscal year 22. As far as successful exits to permanent housing, we did see about 48%, which is good. We increased that from 8% from last year. And our retention rate for permanent supportive housing continues to remain pretty high at 96%. And again, this is just a high level highlights of these reports. They're both available on our website if anybody kind of wants to go more into the nitty-gritty details for that as well. Does anybody have any questions before I move on to the next topic? Alrighty. And now we are going to hear from some of our CoC committee chairs about updates from the June committee meetings. And I am going to go ahead and hand it over to Tony Sayers-Sega. He is our CoC Advocacy and Policy Chair.
Sophie, I think it is actually me this morning, not Tony.
Yes, hi, Nick. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure which
he's
one.
Your favorite. I know he's your favorite.
No, I love you both equally. Don't worry. Thank you so much.
This is bringing back flashbacks. So we are so excited that we are thinking a lot about what it means for voter registration for people who are experiencing homelessness. So a lot of the work that we're going to be doing now in the summer, which some people call downtime, we call it opportunity, is going to be working on voter registration, working with services that are already on this issue, and getting that done. So if you are interested, we would love to hear from you. I think it's going to be a really great way to do some outreach. As I know Rachel is going to talk a bit more about, the legislative session is over, and we had some really great results this year, particularly SB 293, which I'm sure everyone remembers from its previous iterations, provide protection for source of income, meaning that landlords will not be able to openly discriminate against people who might be using various vouchers or various sources of income. That's really exciting. I know we've talked a lot in the past about how difficult it is, even if you have a voucher, to find accommodation. So that is incredibly exciting. And in the summer, we are going to continue into the fall, working on tenant rights and protections. We know there are some great groups doing this work, like the Homes Campaign, the Wilmington Tenants Union, hoping to keep working on that, continuing to look at the criminalization of homelessness. We know that's something that is happening both locally and nationally. I think we're all thinking about the grants pass decision and what that will mean here in Delaware and around the country, as well as making sure that we're working on benefit access, knowing that just because you are experiencing homelessness, that there are several barriers that we can help address. So we are really excited. Just because the legislator is off doesn't mean we're not working hard. So we always say we'd love to have you at those meetings. So if you can attend, let me or Sophie know. We would love to add you on the list and have you attend. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Nick. But yeah, like I said, again, I'm gonna have a slide too with all of the next meeting dates as well, so everyone can mark their calendars if they're interested to attend. But yes, with all of our committees, we would love to have you guys join. And if you're very passionate about the advocacy side, and advocacy and policy committee would be great for you, and we love to have you. Alrighty, does anybody have any questions about the advocacy and policy committee before I move on? I also apologize. I have not been able to see the chat. So if anybody has a question in the chat, feel free to come off mute and ask as well too. Nope, it looks like we're good. Thank you, Nick. I saw your little hand signals. So next we have our CoC System Solutions Committee, and we are going to be hearing from Kim Brockenbrough. She's one of our committee chairs.
Okay, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. There's some construction going on in the background, so you may hear saws or other things. The System Solutions Committee, we just to talk a little bit about acronyms. SPM is System Performance Measures. Just been made aware sometimes people don't know all our acronyms, and that can be weird. Sophie showed you some of those measures earlier as I was coming into the meeting. And we go over all of those as a part of the committee and talk about those. And our real main role as a committee is to look at those measures and just talk about ways that we might be able to improve upon those measures and put together some ideas, goals, and other things to help with that. So we look at some of those strategies. One of the strategies that we have been working on, and we had a subcommittee that worked on this, is, which you can see to the left, is our rental assistance guide. It's a effort to kind of engage landlords and encourage them to take rental assistance of all kinds and explain that there's different kinds. It's not just what used to be called Section 8, but there's other kinds of vouchers and assistance, and that, you know, those kinds of assistance can really help them have a long-term, you know, steady stream of income, and are not really barriers for them. So we hope that this will be helpful in engaging some landlords and getting them to accept rental assistance. And we're, excuse me, you know, we look at all the reports and those kinds of things, and we would encourage anyone who is interested to join us on the committee. We're also looking at mainstream benefits and partnerships there. So if someone is interested in that, we'd love to have you be a part of our committee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kim. I just want to add two things really fast too. I ran out of room on this slide, so I wasn't able to put both sides of the rental assistance guide, but this is available on our website. It's a really great tool for case managers to kind of help navigate some of those more difficult conversations when they're engaging with landlords about renting to clients that receive that rental assistance. Jessica with the CoC team was the mastermind behind this, and the back half of the sheet is, I think, one of my favorites, but it does kind of have almost like a conversation between a landlord and a case manager about addressing some of the common concerns that landlords have. So it's a really great tool. It's available on our website. And then back to our system performance data goals and tracking. Again, we talked a little bit about it in the couple slides back, but we do have the slides available. They're linked on this slide, and then as well as available in our committee folders too. But we do have a more in-depth overview just specifically of the system performance metrics that the committee looked at this past meeting in June. So if anybody kind of wants to go more, again, into the detail with that, that's also available there. But again, System Solutions Committee, it's really great for anybody who's really passionate, kind of more from like the data and strategic planning side. We would love to have you. And
Awesome.
oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Sophie. That really helped. Thanks.
And Kim, again, you're the best. Thank you again so much for helping out. We, with all of our committee chairs, we really couldn't manage all of this. I couldn't do all of it without everybody's help too. So we are so thankful for everybody for assisting, not just today, but for all that you guys do all the time as the committee chairs as well. But did anybody have any questions about the System Solutions Committee before I move on to the Racial Justice and Equity Committee?
I'll just say there were some folks asking for a direct link to the sheet, so I'm putting that in the chat.
Thank you, Rachel. You were the best. I will also, this is a great moment for me just to put it out there. It's the same page where our report, PIT report and our system performance metrics report is as well, but on the Housing Alliance Delaware website, if you go to the CoC page and then reports and publications, any fact sheets that we put out, any reports, any kind of like summaries, data, things like that, that's all kind of housed there. So if you guys are interested in these kinds of things, I definitely recommend just kind of bookmarking that page. We'll update that whenever we have new resources or fact sheets or reports that we're putting out. So it's a good place to kind of keep checking if you guys are interested in those kinds of things. Thank you, Rachel, too. Alrighty, and I'm going to now hand it over to Laura Gendrew, and she is going to talk about the YWCA Journey to Freedom Walk that the CoC Racial Justice and Equity Committee participated in on June 22nd.
Thank you, Sophie. Yes, we were very excited to participate with the walk. The YWCA hosted and the CoC attended. It was a beautiful day. It was a warm day, but it was, we all had a great time. And I think really what was very clear was the diversity of the organizations that participated in the event. So I loved the whole event. It was, it was symbolic of why we were all there, because the variety of different organizations that were there. Everyone took the opportunity to really take the time to meet with all of our fellow colleagues at their various tables. And then we all walked together in unity. So I thought it was very powerful. I loved the fact that there was, the instrumentation and the music and the opportunity to share was there. So I did take the time to, to stop and to meet with everyone, good friends. It's always great to see everyone there in support. I think, and again, I think Sophie and the team at Housing Alliance. Rachel, you have such a great team. And it's always good to see everybody. So we had a great time. Great idea for having the ice cream food trucks. Loved it. And you know what? Big plus with that, and I still have it, that cloth that was like, it wet and you could put it on yourself. I was like, oh, this is fabulous. And there were some local entrepreneurs there. Love the venue location. So I am looking forward to participating in it again. I walked all the way out with some of my colleagues. Sarah and Jeff were there from United Way, and obviously Rachel and Sophie were there. And so it was a great opportunity to really collaborate. So thank you so very much, everyone, and particularly Sophie, for making sure that we were there and we actively participated. So just sign me up for next year.
Thank you so much, Laura. I was about to say, I'm in the same boat. I'm crossing my fingers. The event was amazing. Would love to participate again next year. We had an amazing time. And again, thank you so much for the YWCA again for hosting such an amazing event. We cannot wait to hopefully again be part of it again next year.
Absolutely, I agree. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Laura. And I am actually going to pass it on over now to Paula Witcher. She is our other CoC Racial Justice and Equity Chair, and she is going to be talking a little bit about the CoC anti-discrimination policy.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? All right, so the Delaware CoC anti-discrimination policy states that, the policy ensures the safety, dignity, and well-being of all individuals and families. In accordance with HUD's Fair Housing Act, all programs must provide equal access in a non-discriminatory manner that ensures that all persons are afforded equal opportunities. Community reviews provided feedback for this policy. Feedback is being reviewed and incorporated into the policy for review and final approval by the CoC board, and will be approved by the CoC board next month.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Paula. Yeah, so just again, we have this anti-discrimination policy. We have to have it through HUD's Fair Housing Act, but also it's just, again, we want to ensure that anyone that's being helped out in any of the projects that is HUD funded, whether it's through CoC or ESG funds, and just in general, all projects, we would like to be anti-discriminatory, but we just want to make, it's a policy in place. There's also a sample policy, so different projects can kind of pull that and use it for themselves. That ensures that anybody who's being served in those projects is given equal opportunity and equal access regardless of any of their protected classes. And again, the Racial Justice and Equity Committee was awesome enough to help review this policy. And we're also going to have another opportunity for general community review as well too. That's going to be beginning at our annual membership drive, so September 1st. So just if you guys are interested and anybody would like to be part of the community review for this, just keep an eye out on your emails for right around September 1st. We'll be having that available for anybody, just again for community review and feedback as well. But does anybody have any questions about the Racial Justice and Equity Committee before we go ahead and wrap up? Alrighty. And here is just kind of a little bit of general information. Again, our next committees will be meeting in September. If you need any super specifics, you can always reach out to me, but our CoC, I'm sorry, I somehow got muted, I apologize. But all of our meeting links and dates with the Zoom link, the meeting folder is all available on our CoC public calendar. That's on the HAD website under the CoC events page. But again, if you guys have any specific questions about the committees, you want to have a question about it, you're interested, want to know more, please feel free to email me. I'm pretty sure my email is listed about in 4 different slides on here. I'll also, if I remember, I'll put it in the chat too. But again, we would love to see you guys in some of our September committee meetings. And if anyone has any questions, please just let me know. Alrighty, I am now going to hand it over to Amelia. She is our CMIS program manager, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of her program updates.
Hi, everyone. So, the quick thing is just CMIS, has been busy for the past couple of months, probably for the first half of the year with the federal reports, that Sophie had talked about with the narratives, that have been published. Right now, we're in the process of our renewal processes with our vendor, that hosts CMIS for us. So an email was sent out yesterday to CMIS users, but I'm just wanted to give a quick reminder that our license and inventory renewals are due next Monday, July 22nd. This is our way to make sure that we have the licenses and the system is set up the way it needs to be in terms of size for CMIS for the upcoming contract that we have with our vendor, WellSky. It also helps us kind of gauge costs that are required for CMIS for the upcoming year and the year after. So as of right now, about 1/3 of the agencies in CMIS have returned their documents for the license and inventory renewal. So please, if you are on this call and you are an agency administrator in CMIS, to just make sure you send that document to me by the 22nd. We are also currently reviewing the CMIS Policies and Procedures Manual for the upcoming year. The fiscal year 2025 version will be available in the next month. But also just the heads up that if there are any major changes that are made, they do have to be approved by the System Solutions Committee. There are none proposed right now, but that is just the normal process. The last thing I just wanted to bring up was CMIS onboarding. That summer is the ideal time to join CMIS. So if your agency does not utilize CMIS, I am available to talk about the system a little bit more with you and talk about how adding your programs to CMIS could help us be able to increase the system's coverage and be able to report on homelessness in Delaware more accurately. And this is the perfect time to do so, just because with the HUD fiscal year, that begins October 1st. So we do have a couple of months before we can start incorporating that into reporting. But basically, I'm available. I'll be on this call as well if you wanted to talk a little bit more about anything else relating to CMIS. Other than that, that's all the updates I have. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Amelia. I just want to add one little quick point to kind of piggyback on what you were saying again about CMIS onboarding. I just want to emphasize again, it is really, really important that we have is the more agencies that sign up for CMIS, the better we'll have a much better idea of Delaware's homelessness crisis, the more agencies join. The more the agencies join, the more data that we have put in, the better we're able to actually have a more encompassing view of that. So again, really, really encourage any agency that if they're not participating in CMIS, we would love to have you. It really helps provide everybody a much better picture of what's really going on. Alrighty, and with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Rachel Stucker. She is the Executive Director with Housing Alliance Delaware. She is going to be covering some of these centralized intake program updates, as well as some information for the legislative session. And she is going to be screen sharing, so I'm going to stop. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Rachel.
All right, everyone. Hi, how are you? It's great to be here. I'm going to provide you with some information about centralized intake most recently, and talk a little bit about some updates and snapshots of current need that we're seeing in the community. So everyone can see the dashboard, right? Sophie, you see the dashboard? Thumbs up. Cool. All right. So we do our best to publish this on our website, on the homepage of our website every month, our monthly centralized intake dashboard. Thank you to Robert and the CMIS team for continuing to make this accurate and possible for us to easily get this data out of the system. So during the month of June, we were contacted by 1,319 households that were experiencing some type of housing crisis. Of those households, 33%, 1 in 3 at some point reported to us that they were living in an unsheltered place not meant for habitation, whether that's a vehicle, an abandoned building, an encampment, outdoors. that at one point during their contact with us during the month, they reported having been in an unsheltered situation. That's more than 400 households. These numbers stay fairly consistent each month. That about between 20 and 25% of the folks contacting us are folks who are temporarily doubled up and don't know where they're going to go, at risk of or imminently experiencing homelessness and need stable housing, and are, of course, are trying to avoid having to enter shelter or other homeless assistance programs. And then, of course, we're contacted by each month, I'd say it's usually between like 12 and 20% of folks contacting us are contacting us from emergency shelters because they need to leave and are looking for other housing or shelter accommodations. And then you can see the other types of living situations there. Institutional settings includes things like hospitals, recovery, like inpatient stays, and recovery type, whether it's mental health or substance use. And folks are calling us who are housed because they're facing eviction or facing displacement for some reason. And you know, all these folks, we might not necessarily always have all the resources in the continuum of care to meet these needs, but we're working to help folks identify other resources in the community that may be able to help them as well. Such as, and don't forget about, so this is my plug, don't forget about sending folks to the legal aid organizations for right to representation for folks who have had evictions filed against them. They may be able to get help navigating that process and hopefully preventing their eviction. So we connect folks to that on a regular basis as well. All right. So at centralized intake, we use CMIS a lot. And the centralized intake team is always all up in these reports to try to identify and prioritize folks for the resources that do exist. And so I wanted to highlight some of the numbers that we see literally as of this morning on the prioritization report that we use and the chronic homeless report that we use. So the prioritization report is used to identify households for referrals to transitional housing, rapid rehousing, and permanent supportive housing when those openings are available in the community. When we run that report today, and of course, I can go into a lot more detail about what gets pulled in this report and why it's showing up the way it is. That's not what we're going to do today. This is really just a snapshot. But that pulls up 877 people experiencing homelessness in our community that are in need of those resources. 109 of those people are enrolled in a street outreach program somewhere in Delaware, 174 in emergency shelters, 61 in transitional housing. The vast majority, over 500, are enrolled in coordinated entry and also enrolled in ESSO or TH somewhere in the community in many cases, but not all. Again, we could dig into this data a lot more. If you're someone who loves this information and it really helps you understand the problem, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk with you more about it. But when providers in the community, like many of you, are telling us, hey, we can take another family for rapid rehousing. Hey, we have an opening in our transitional rapid rehousing program. This is the report that we use to identify eligible households to refer. The chronic homeless report we have a new and improved version thanks to Robert on the CMIS team here at Housing Alliance and Amelia for making that happen. And we use that when we get requests for permanent supportive housing openings, we use that to identify people who may be eligible for those openings. Currently, there are 254 people on that priority list. 174 households, 16 of whom are households with children, and 158 who are adult-only households. And so that includes people system-wide who, according to CMIS, are experiencing chronic homelessness and who are in need of permanent supportive housing. And as of yesterday, we have a whole separate report that we use to prioritize folks for emergency shelter openings each day. And again, talk about why. But we had 87 unsheltered and 67 sheltered households on that report yesterday, and 5 open shelter beds throughout the state in the shelters that Housing Alliance refers to through centralized intake. So you can see the need and the availability are quite mismatched. This is really here for a reference, as is the next slide. Again, these are going to be available to you after today's meeting. Just as a reminder for folks, there are more resources available in the community than the ones that we refer directly to in the homeless assistance system. So this is a list of a lot of it has to do with what type of funding folks get and what the expectations are for their participation in centralized intake. But we make direct referrals to these shelter transitional rapid MPSH programs. Again, you can reference this at any time when you're trying to think about like what can centralized intake assist with. And this is the list of places that we do not make direct referrals to. Again, we tell people about these resources. We can give folks the phone numbers to call, the locations to show up if that's appropriate, depending on the program. But this is a list of places that we currently do not make direct referrals to. Again, as a reference for you, if you're ever wondering and trying to help your clients. So that's it for centralized intake updates. Information I thought that was important for folks to have today. I'm happy to answer any questions if folks have any. All right, thanks.
All right, and then Rachel, I think we also had you for legislative. Yep.
Well, I'm just supposed to keep going, aren't I?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, sorry, thank you.
No, that's good. All right, so legislative updates from 2024. I know many of you on this call are coming to this work from very different perspectives, very different places in the work. Some of you are working directly with people experiencing homelessness every day. Some of you are spending time in the advocacy and policy world, and some of you are doing both, and everything in between. So some of you have been really involved in trying to really push forward some changes to policy in Delaware to address the housing crisis and the needs of people experiencing housing instability and homelessness. So I just want to take a moment to thank you for that. It is very, very important, I think, in this work that we celebrate the successes that we have. It doesn't always feel on a day-to-day basis. And maybe you're a rare one and it feels like this to you, but I know for a lot of folks, it doesn't always feel like their successes every day. Sometimes it can feel quite disheartening, what people are experiencing in the community. And so I want to make sure we're celebrating that 2024's legislative session was one of the most active legislative sessions that anyone can remember in Delaware when it comes to addressing housing in particular. There were more bills, more focus on housing than there ever has been before in Dover. Is what happened in Dover going to solve the problem tomorrow or next year? No, but it's an incredibly important start and some incredibly important changes that have the potential to make some long-term changes to the system here in Delaware, which is exciting. So I want to celebrate that. So I wanted to highlight some of the housing bills that passed. The Affordable Housing Production Task Force, which was prime sponsored by Representative Johnson, creates a task force that is charged with looking at affordable housing production in Delaware, financing, land use, special populations. It has a very specific charge. And my understanding is that currently folks it's in the process of being formed and people being appointed to this task force. It's awaiting the governor's signature, the legislation that creates this task force, and it's on a really short time frame, which I think is important and good. That this task force is required to produce a report to the new governor and the legislature in March of 2025, which is not long from now. It's only a couple months away. So I'm excited about the task force. Representative Bomback, thank you for being here. And I see your hand is raised.
Thank you, Rachel. I just want to point out, if you look at those names, first thing is this isn't from one legislator. These are from 4 different legislators, several of them freshmen. So I think it really speaks to a wonderful path that we are on at this point.
Awesome. Thank you, Representative Bomback, and for your work and leadership over the years on housing issues as well. Glad you could be here with us. Absolutely. There are a lot of people paying attention to this and working together to make some change, so it's exciting. Two other pieces of legislation that passed create housing status protections and employment and housing. They're two separate pieces of legislation that were originally part of the Homeless Persons Bill of Rights. Representative Phillips was the sponsor of that bill. It was broken into two separate pieces of legislation that creates housing status pretty much as a protected class in Delaware's employment and housing sectors. So basically what that would mean is I'm applying for a job. I put down that my current address is a homeless shelter or a day center because I'm sleeping in my car. I don't have a permanent address. There are a lot of reasons why that employer could choose not to hire me, but the fact that I'm currently homeless or without a permanent address is not allowable, will not be allowable anymore. I can't be discriminated against due to my housing status. Same when I am searching for housing in the community. This would prohibit property owners or landlords from screening tenants out because they don't have a current, permanent, and fixed address. I'm sure that those of you who are working directly with clients in your programs, working really, really hard to try to get them into housing, have come across situations far too frequently where they're looks like they could get a unit, they're applying for a unit, but the prospective property owner or landlords finds out that they're experiencing homelessness and or housing instability. They don't currently have a permanent address and doesn't want to rent to them because the assumption is that they'll be a bad renter. So we're excited about those. Again, that legislation passed both the House and Senate in Dover and is awaiting the governor's signature.
So we have a question in the chat.
Oh.
That would any of the items change in 2025 or upcoming due to grants Pass versus Johnson, or if there would be any other implications to any of this legislation?
Yeah, so none of the legislation addresses criminalization. I don't know of any plans to have a hearing specifically about the implications. So Ruth, I hope that answers your question. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how folks can get in. I was going to talk about grants pass a little bit. But so no, none of this directly influences the criminalization of homelessness in Delaware. Source of income protections has been a long slog by Senator Lockman working to pass the bill that was talked about earlier, so I won't repeat it, but that people with rental assistance or vouchers, landlords and property owners can't say we don't rent to people with vouchers, that people be considered on an individual basis. The bill is not going to be effective. The law is not going to be effective until 2026, and there are some conditions that need to be met before it goes into effect. So while the bill is awaiting the governor's signature, we expect it to be signed, but there will be some time before we can see the impact of that legislation. And then Senator Huxtable, and sorry, Russ, I know you're not here, but I failed to put Senator in front of your name. I apologize. Senator Huxtable had a package of 7 bills, 6 of which passed to address housing production through primarily through incentives and allowing certain types of funds to be used for affordable housing production. I'm not going to go through all of those in detail, but those were all popular and are also awaiting governor's signature and can help incentivize the production of affordable housing. Terry, it looks like you have your hand up.
Good morning, everyone. I do have a question. We don't have anything regarding, I thought there was legislation out here regarding rent control.
There was a rent stabilization bill that was introduced the last day of session. It was not passed, it was not heard in committee. It was introduced the very last day of session.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. All right, so we should celebrate these things. It means there's some movement. And of course, I know a lot of you were involved in helping to encourage our policymakers and legislators to take action on housing. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. As was already talked about, Supreme Court decision in June on Johnson versus Grants Pass means that communities all over the country feel more, there's a permission structure now to do more criminalizing of homelessness without fear of being sued under what formerly was considered a decision that prohibited that. So what we know is that since that decision was very, very disheartening for a lot of people in a lot of places nationally, and there have already been over the last couple of weeks, some communities and some places that have implemented new criminalization tools to deal with homelessness in their local jurisdictions. I don't know that we have seen anything new or new efforts to do that here in Delaware, but we don't need to wait to see it to know that it's possible that it could get worse. We know a lot of jurisdictions in Delaware are concerned about homelessness being more visible in their communities, about more people sleeping outside in encampments. And we know that fining people, ticketing people, moving people, things that don't help and make the problem worse, people can feel like those are the only solutions that they have available to them. And so we really need to be on top of our game in terms of being vigilant. If we see this happening in our communities, making sure to educate our local decision makers about what actually does solve homelessness, what actually does help people. Homelessness is not a crime. Sleeping or sitting in public is not a crime. And I just wanted to, Delaware, in a lot of communities do this different in Delaware. So wherever you are, wherever you're doing this work, a lot of it's going to happen at the local level. I would encourage you to pay attention, not to be afraid to say, no, that is not how we should be treating our neighbors. People need help. People need housing. Homelessness is not a crime. Happy to talk again with you more about that. If you're interested in getting more involved in things like that, I know that the Homes campaign here in Delaware is very active in advocacy related to people's needs who are on the streets. I know Terry, who just spoke a few minutes ago, or there you are, Terry, is very active in those areas as well. Feel free to reach out to them or me, and I can put you in touch with folks if you want to get more involved. And that's it for me, Soph.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, I'm sorry. I did see. Oh, Ruth did add another, not a question, but I guess a statement in the chat too. I just want to mention, she said, in light of Grants Pass, the National Alliance to End Homelessness just this morning has affirmed and conceded that housing first means housing plus services. She said she was happy to hear that, and that hopefully that will help make the case for funding as well too. So I do think that was a great point. Before we move on to some of our external presentations, does anybody have any questions for Rachel about any of the other legislative updates or some of the CI program updates? Alrighty. I am going to now hand it over to Kristen Risor. She is the Director of Community Engagement with Friendship House. She is going to be talking about one of their resources they have available this summer called Code Orange. And I believe she's going to be, Kristen, I think I have you down to screen share, correct?
Yes. Are you able to?
I was about to say, I know I'm going to have to, you should be able to do it now.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Let's see. There we go. Hi, everyone. I am Kristen Reister. I am the Community Engagement Director with Friendship House. For those of you who aren't familiar with Friendship House, our mission is to unite people facing homelessness with loving, supportive communities they can call home. We are a statewide nonprofit that is working with folks who are unhoused or have housing but need some additional services. And we manage a program called Code Orange. So Friendship House's Code Orange is implemented when temperatures and humidity reach dangerous levels for our street level people experiencing homelessness or folks without air conditioning. So folks that are housed but don't have resources to stay cool. Our criteria is when the heat index is 100 degrees or more. So that feels like temperature. So it can be high 80s sometimes, that feels like 100. And many of you know we're in like our third heat wave of the summer already. It's been very hot out. And when we call a code orange, it will also activate some other cooling stations. And we're doing this in Wilmington and Newark currently, with potential to do more locations in future summers. So these are just our normal operating hours. And I just share this because a lot of times the daytime is when it's the hottest. And so we are normally opened at our empowerment centers, Wilmington, Newark, Middletown, and we do have a Dover location as well. But we're open throughout the day. These hours are available on our website. And most of them, if you just Google one of our empowerment centers in the nearest area, you'll see those locations and the hours. We are able to offer water, bathroom, any of those services, food, hygiene items when we're normally open. So if it is hot out, folks are welcome to just come hang out at one of our centers during the weekday. And then our extended hours, we are open every Saturday in July and August. In Wilmington, it will be at First and Central Presbyterian Church, so just down the street from our normal location. We are open Saturdays 1 to 5, and then in Newark, it is a location that changes. So here are the 3 locations and the dates. And I do have flyers for both of these that I can share with Sophie after, and you can make sure to get that out to everyone on the call. But just, this is something new we're doing this summer. We were trying to really just watch the heat index and call code orange because mostly it was weekends that we would need to call it because we were normally open during the week. And we just are not weather professionals. It's hard to kind of track. One rainstorm can really change the temperature, and we had volunteers that would be, are we going, are we not going? So instead of trying to navigate, we've just decided to be open every Saturday in July and August to really offer that heat relief for folks that are in need of that service. So that's something that we have kind of adapted into this summer. And then just want to note that there is no referral needed to access these services. They are walk-in centers at all times. Anyone can walk in. We do post about it on Facebook. So when there is a code orange happening, when it is really hot outside, we'll post additional services, including our hours and what else is available in the area that we know of. We've kind of partnered with kind of the cooling centers and have been sharing their information as well. So if you know somebody that needs services or you want to just reshare them, we do post it to our Facebook and you can access that through our website. We are always looking for volunteers. So if anybody is interested, especially Saturdays in the summer, sometimes people are in town and want to help out. So you can reach out to volunteer@friendshiphoused.org if you're interested in volunteering. And then we always accept monetary and in-kind donations to help offer supplies to folks. So we are always looking for cups, paper towels, and plastic bags. Does anyone have any questions? And here's our website, and this is our helpline. Our helpline is largely for folks needing financial assistance, but if anyone is in need of assistance, they can call that as well. And then we do have a general email address they can reach out to as well. Carolyn, like your hand's raised.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to mention in Sussex County that the CRC is doing the same thing through the month of July. They're open on Saturdays and Sundays from 9 to 3, offering similar things, laundry, water, just the opportunity to cool off. And that's not their usual schedule, but they are doing a code orange for July.
Awesome, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Are there, on those days, are there any services provided to them besides just the cooling and the drinks? Are they able to get like bus cards or anything during that time?
I'm not sure about bus tickets. We don't have a case manager on site at all times during our Saturdays. So we aren't offering our extended case management services. It's mostly meant just for an opportunity for folks to hang out and relax and be out of the heat and get essential services. But if anybody does need bus ticket or a case management, they can visit us Monday through Friday to receive those.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kristen. I also just want to note something else that was put in the chat as well. Charles Hayward also said as a reminder that all of the state service centers are open as cooling stations throughout the hot weather as well, too. I'm really excited. Again, Code Orange is great. Carolyn, it was awesome to hear about what CRC is doing too. If you guys have any flyers or materials, feel free to send them over to me because I'll make sure that we can include that then in the meeting follow-up for this as well too. But Rachel, I think you did put something in the chat. There have been people that have been having heat strokes already this year, so it is a really important resource. And we are so grateful for Friendship House, for CRC, and for the state service centers as well for being able to provide a very much needed resource. Did we have any other questions before we move on? All right. Kristen, thank you again so much. Like I said, really important resource. Friendship House is great with everything you guys do and really appreciate you being here to present about it too. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alrighty, and I'm going to go right back to sharing my screen again really fast. I am going to go through this one slide a little bit quick just for the sake of time, but HUD also recently put out some resources for helping people that are experiencing homelessness kind of escape the heat. Again, this is going to be included in the meeting material, so I'm not going to go over it in too much detail, but good resources to kind of help assist, again, making sure people are in a safe space when it's as hot as it has been recently. But with that, I am now going to move on to a recent conference that the University of Delaware put on. Steve Mitro was the director for CCRS. He's with the Biden School of Public Policy. He's also a member of our CoC board. He's going to be doing a little bit of a recap about the event that focused on homelessness in Delaware.
All right. Thank you, Sophia. And I promise I will be brief on this. It's hard to believe we had this conference back on June 6th, which was over a month ago now. So as you can see from the picture here, well, I can basically, so I'm a professor at University of Delaware. My main function is basically I direct a center called the Center for Community Research and Service, and we put on this conference on focusing specifically on homelessness in Delaware. I have not had a conference like that since 2007, so it was kind of pretty much time to get folks back together. The two main purposes of the conference were to kind of introduce and share ideas and things people were doing in other parts of the country, and to bring them here, and then to have people local from Delaware talk about, just kind of how these ideas could be adapted to Delaware. And then we also looked at a couple of innovative practices, by no means all of them, but showcased some of them that were going on here in Delaware and looking at next steps. And so if you want to get a better idea or a more specific idea of what the program looked like, who the people were, encourage you to get out your phones. There's a I'm blanking on what that's called. You can basically scan that in, and there's a link to the program and the bios of the speakers. A couple of speakers are here in the audience. various people here on the Zoom today were also attending the meeting, and we do appreciate that. Also want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We had two very generous sponsors in the Delaware Community Foundation and the Delaware Association of Realtors. Also want to give a shout to the Housing Alliance that were very supportive in terms of, first of all, having Rachel be one of the speakers, having, just kind of disseminating information about the conference, and also having pretty much a whole staff attend, which was great to see everybody there. So, anyway, so we, again, kind of had, we targeted, first we targeted 100, then we targeted 150 people. We ended up reaching capacity of the room, which was at about 175. As you can see, it was full. I think the people were engaged. The feedback we got was very positive. Again, I'm not going to go over the what exactly we said because it was a while. What I want to do now, and with the next slide and the remaining time I have, is kind of see what, kind of the next steps, because I think that's important. It's important to have a conference, have everybody get together, but having kind of a one-off doesn't, kind of has a quick half-life and things don't change. So we want to kind of going to go in some directions and see about, getting some basic change to, or get, I don't know if change is the best word, but getting, moving ahead with where we're going in terms of getting more coordinated services and bringing new ideas into Delaware. And so since we had the conference, these are some of the things that we've done. One of the focuses, we had 3 focuses in terms of new ideas. One was on data, one was on using Medicaid to provide more support for housing services. And the third one was for bringing more permanent supportive housing development into the state. These are, of course, not the only issues and things that would enhance services, but they were the 3 we chose, and where people talked about what was going on in other states, and then we kind of talked a bit about how that would be applied to Delaware. So in those areas, in terms of the data, there were several people that came up and talked about just kind of rebooting in terms of some of the initiatives that had gone on here in Delaware in the past, and that was in specifically one called the Delaware Data Integration System, which was a state effort to get something equivalent to a CMIS, but with a much broader scope of services provided, where homeless services would be one system that would be in a common database with a lot of other systems. And that actually had some momentum a couple of years back, kind of became dormant, and there's talks now about restarting efforts to get that together, which is exciting. And this is people from the state, people from the university, and also people from nonprofits. So I'm kind of excited about that, and that's pretty much kind of exactly what we're looking to do with this conference. There's also work going on with the state's division of Medicaid and medical assistance. That's one of the divisions under the State Department of Health and Social Services, and they're working on applying for a Medicaid waiver to get more Medicaid coverage for eligible services that involve housing. So looking to continue with that. Looking to explore next steps for PSH development, which is kind of a more ambitious goal, because there's not been specific groundwork set. But one of the things that we heard, now I'm blanking on her name, the speaker who presented on what was going on there in Pennsylvania, one of the main goals they had was, the 5th bullet here, was to establish a statewide interagency council and plan to address homelessness. And I think that's an important thing for Delaware, and that's something that I'd like to kind of get going on, is to get kind of a broader group together, and not sure exactly what the shape of it's going to be, but to get basically everybody rowing in the same direction, to get a strategic plan, to get a set of objectives that people could commonly get around. And that really also hasn't been done in Delaware really since I've been here, which has been since 2018. And there was a couple of efforts made before that, but if nothing else, to revisit those and to see where we can go from here. And then finally, the last session of the conference was kind of looking at ideas and needs and priorities that people had that they wanted to see move forward. And we got a lot of good discussion, had a lot of good data from that we're putting together and encouraging people to get involved if you're interested in being a part of this, regardless of whether you attended the conference or not. Feel free to contact me, or otherwise just kind of, make your presence known, make your interests known. And, the more people, the more organizations, the more kind of momentum we get to keep this going. I think we stand to, to improve the coordination and the scope of services that are provided here in Delaware. So I'm excited about that and to continue to move forward. And thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Steve. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I know I was there at the conference. I think that first picture was a very fun of like I Spy, if you can see yourself in the audience, because I know we did have a lot of CoC members that also participated or attended the conference as well. I thought it was a really, really informative, really great opportunity to kind of get together with everybody in one space that was all very passionate about working to end homelessness. But again, did anybody have any additional questions or follow-up that they wanted to talk about with the conference before we move on to our next topic?
I just want to thank you, Steve, for doing that. I know there was a lot of great feedback from folks in the community and really helpful in terms of like pushing the conversation forward. So thanks for doing that.
Thank you. And also looking to do this again next year, even though I'm not committing to that. I'm still kind of detoxing from all it took to put this one together, but we've already been talking about that.
Yeah, it was, again, it was an incredible conference. Fingers crossed again that there will be something like this maybe next year in the future. And Steve, again, thank you so much for not only helping organize that and present and cover a lot of the information, but also for just helping us give a little recap today for anybody that might have missed it or just wanted a nice little refresher as well too. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alrighty. And I am going to now move on to one of our other conferences we recently had in June. I think it was June 27th and 28th. The Youth Action Board of Delaware had a convening specifically discussing youth homelessness in Delaware. So today we're going to hear from Demia White. She is the Youth Action Board Coordinator and Intervention Specialist for the Youth Action Board of Delaware. And Demia, I believe you're going to be sharing your screen, so I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share for you too.
Sorry, I'm forgetting how do you even like present a PowerPoint.
You're
But
totally
how y'all doing?
no worries, Demia. I was going to say, I think if you click that slideshow button, there we go. Yep.
Oh yeah, because I didn't see it at the top of my phone right there. But hi, my name is Demia White. I'm the Youth Action Board Coordinator and an Intervention Specialist at Lifelines. So we had our conference on June 27th to the 28th. So it was a 2-day conference. Partnering with the National Network for Youth. So our first day, we touched on 3 points: youth homelessness 101 and systems mapping. So homelessness involved more than a lack of shelter, highlighting the absence of safety and stability. The experience of young homeless people was marked by a nightly search for safe spaces, and then trainings cover youth homelessness and relevant federal and state emergency response definitions. So then our president, his name is Xavier, he partnered with Barbara and they had a little session on adultism and how it impacts youth advocacy. So it explored like adultism and how it impacts youth action boards. So I don't know if a lot of y'all are familiar but they have youth action boards all across the country. So I was doing research, looking at what other YABs do to like get resources for youth with homelessness experience. So they were talking about that because Barbara does work with a lot of YABs across the country. So then like they shared experiences from Xavier mainly because he was the person in that session, and then like techniques to amplify their voices. And then they also learned, well, the audience learned reflective practices for adults to better support youth leaders. And then the last session for our first day was accessing legal resources for youth experiencing homelessness. And they discussed evaluating and mapping out legal resources for homeless youth in Delaware, identified existing resources, pinpointed gaps, and developed actionable solutions to bridge these gaps with stakeholders, and then ensure comprehensive legal support for Delaware's homeless youth by collaborating with service providers, legal professionals, advocates, and government officials. So then I just included a couple of pictures from that day. So at the top, you see Lewis. He is our community outreach specialist. And we had our social media coordinator. That's Charisma in the Black. So if you look in the middle pictures of the lady that you see with the braids, that's Destiny. She's our secretary. The one with like the big cheesy smile on the right, that's our president. His name is Xavier. And then you see a couple of pictures of Sarah. She works with the National Network for Youth. And then she had a couple of youth from Lancaster, with her. And then like they were like doing some activities the first day. So the second day we had 2 sessions. It was a shorter day. So we had Destiny and Zalasia. They talked about trauma-informed care with young people experiencing homelessness. So participants were able to learn the basics of trauma-informed care, understand a framework for trauma-informed responses, and how to apply the responsive framework to their jobs. So for the last session for that day, Marquise and Charisma, they talked about the intersection of youth homelessness and youth trafficking, and then the prevalence of homelessness and human trafficking among young people, common risks and protective factors, screening and assessment tools, and the solutions and advocacy. So then here's a couple more pictures from the second day. When they were presenting, they wanted to take a picture at the end with like some people that came, and it was good. So also during that time of the convening, we had our first fundraiser. So this is my first time like running a fundraiser. I don't know how many people know about me or what, like Stacey tells y'all, but I am new to my position. But like I was pretty excited for them to like be able to raise money for this fundraiser. It was a double good popcorn, so it was a 4-day sale. In total, they sold $2,610. And then our event earnings was half of the profits, so that was $1,305. So then it also gave us our list, like our number of supporters, which was 66. It was 8 states that we reached, and then the youth that received the gift card for getting the most supporters was Charisma. Yeah, so she received a $25 gift card from Amazon. And yeah, that's all. But does anybody have any questions?
I have a comment.
Okay.
The conference was very informative and I enjoyed it, and also received my popcorn in the mail 2 days ago.
No, that is probably something that I do need to give them feedback on, because some people receive their popcorn in like 2 to 3 days, and I'm still waiting for my popcorn too, and it's been like almost 2 weeks. So then like, how does that make us look when we're out here telling people to like participate in something, and it's just like the company that we're working with, they didn't even give like a responsive feedback like they should have. So I am going to definitely send them a nice little email.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on one because I supported 3 of you. And so I received 2, but I'm missing one.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm in the same boat with you because our therapist here, he had bought like a big bundle for them, and we still waiting at the center for to receive that, and still haven't came in. So I'm like, they're just now sending out tracking numbers. So I mean, at least that's good. That's a starter. But I feel like it should have been here like 2 weeks ago.
Demia, thank you so much. I was going to say you're getting a lot of love in the chat too. Everybody's saying how great the event was. I feel bad saying this. I actually got my popcorn yesterday, so it's going out. But again, fingers crossed. Everybody else who hasn't gotten their popcorn yet, it should be on the way. And I will say you did make a new fan out of that brand. I only had the caramel popcorn, but it was delicious. But in regards to the event too, I was unfortunately only able to attend the one day, but I just also want to kind of echo what everybody else has been saying in the chat about how amazing of an event it was. I also just want to highlight, while it was very serious topics we were discussing, I had a lot of fun. I had so much fun for a topic that was for a conference about something that was actually very serious. But I think you guys did an absolute amazing way with engaging. We did a really fun rock, paper, scissors event when there was candy and snacks. We got to do like the neighborhood drawing. So hats off to you guys. I'm definitely going to be keeping, if you see any of that at any of our CoC meetings, know that I definitely did steal that idea from you guys. So really, it was an incredible meeting, and very excited for future convenings to happen in the future as well too.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much too for presenting on this today. If anybody has any, I'll give another moment for any other questions for Demia too before we wrap up. Alrighty. And again, just to mention, all of this information will be available and sent out to everybody. So if anybody has any follow-up questions or thinks of something later, they can always reach out to people directly as well. And next up, I have voter access for people experiencing homelessness. That's going to be with Anthony Albans. He's with the State Election Commissioners and the Delaware Department of Elections. Anthony, I do have your slides. Would you prefer to screen share? Or would you like me to go ahead and show them? Whatever's easier for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Better.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and do this and just let me know when you need me to move to the next slide.
Okay, will do. Will do.
Perfect.
No
Thank you.
problem. And again, thanks for the opportunity to be here and for all the work everybody's doing. My colleague, I am Anthony Albans, State Election Commissioner. My colleague, who is actually out of the office today, Rebecca Arga, who's our organized voter registration program coordinator, was unable to join us. So I am offering the presentation today. And just as a recap, we are very happy in elections to work with all of the organizations in the community to ensure that everyone who is eligible, who is not registered to vote, is registered, or those who are registered to vote obviously need to update their records, ensure they have a correct address, and various things of that nature to ensure a convenient voting experience, are registered and are being able to be provided all the services that we need. And we know that Delaware, obviously, and in appreciation of all the work that all those on this call and all your colleagues do, we know that we and other states are certainly continuing to experience the challenges of those without permanent housing or with insufficient housing. And we want to make sure that, those folks, regardless of their housing situation, are provided there and afforded their right to exercise their right to vote. So I'm going to review some details on that today. You can go ahead if you'd like. Okay, so just a quick recap in terms of voter registration requirements in the state of Delaware. One must be a U.S. citizen, a resident of Delaware, and at least 18 years of age before the date of the next general election. We do require identification, and that's one of the items I wanted to mention today. I know that can be challenging, certainly for sometimes with individuals without a fixed residence or experiencing obviously some economic challenges in potentially obtaining ID. So the benefit and I think the advantage we have is that here in Delaware, we don't have a distinct or limited set of ID requirements for voter registration. There are suggested types of identification, but certainly the bottom line here is to ensure that individuals' identity and their residence or what is currently their residence can be confirmed to ensure that their registration can be completed and that individuals are assigned to the correct districts, in terms of their voting location. So certainly, as I mentioned at the bottom of the screen here, those without a fixed residence certainly are eligible approval to vote. We do have in the presentation an example of a document that we have that can be used to help confirm residence. And I know that many of the organizations who work with individuals who are experiencing homelessness or experiencing housing issues do have a similar form. I know from my prior experience, before I was in this role for many, many years, I was director in Newcastle County office in Wilmington. So there were a lot of organizations, the city of Wilmington in particular, that we worked with, and we were very familiar with processing registrations for individuals at the various facilities. So if you would mind, go ahead. Okay, so this is the form I was mentioning. This is available as part of our organized voter registration materials, and certainly in and of itself as a standalone form is certainly available as well. This form allows an opportunity for a staff member at one of the facilities working with an individual to confirm that someone is receiving services at a facility, is receiving their mail there, is their address of their address of record at the current time, or they are in residence there if that's applicable. And again, this helps us to complete that requirement for residency verification for individuals without a permanent housing situation at the time of registration. Okay, you can go ahead. Okay, the organized voter registration program. One of the things I wanted to mention on this call, because I know this is a coalition of individuals working from various organizations. One of the programs that we do offer in the state of Delaware is the organized voter registration program. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that as well. If individuals, a group of individuals from this call or other colleagues of yours, you may wish to pursue this, we'd be happy to work with you on this. We have training that's available. Oh, thank you, Rachel. Thank you. We offer training that's available monthly on the organized voter registration program. And again, the program is something in Delaware Code that allows for individual groups or organizations in the community who wish to offer voter registration services to do so. We do provide that monthly training. There is a certification process, and that process is in place just to ensure that individuals who are conducting the voter registration are aware of the requirements and are aware of the procedural needs to be followed, such as deadlines and things of that nature. For those who do wish to seek out the organized voter registration or OVR certification, we do ask that you will attend training once every 2 years. It is offered in a format including online for your convenience, day or evening. It outlines all the processes, how to complete the forms, like as I mentioned, how to return the forms in a timely manner, all the things to keep in mind. And just the only item that one of the items we just like to reiterate with the OVR program is we just ask anyone who's conducting the program must affirm that they will remain nonpartisan, of course, in all of their activities. One of the benefits, by the way, of the program, if you do choose to pursue it, is that each organized voter registration group is assigned a unique code, as mentioned. So you can have some tracking if you'd like, and you can have some historical data in terms of how many applications are being submitted, things of that nature, if you'd like to track data, which I know is very important in a lot of your work, certainly. Okay, you can go ahead. So again, we have a number of partnerships. We have dozens and dozens of groups throughout the state that some are newer, some have been doing it for decades. Fraternal organizations, community groups, churches, even political parties, and even candidate committees, again, all commit to nonpartisan operations as well. And again, if this is something you're interested in, please let us know. We can please contact Rebecca, and we'll be happy to set up anyone for training or do a special training off schedule if that is more convenient for everyone. Okay, you can go ahead. Okay, some important dates, and these are things we do cover in training. But again, for anyone on this call who is involved in offering voter registration services as part of your standard menu of services at any of the organizations participating on the call, we do have upcoming voter registration deadlines in August and then in October for the primary and the general elections. Again, Delaware law is that individuals who are eligible individuals who are not registered must be registered by the 4th Saturday preceding the election. The registration in Delaware is permanent, so that there's certainly no need to re-register, but simply to update your address if you move, and of course, if you change your housing situation. Delaware state primary is September 10th. Delaware is a closed primary state, as many folks may know. Again, only registered Democrats and Republicans may vote, and the polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on both the primary and the general election day. That's for election day voting. Okay, you can go ahead. I've also offered on this page a copy of our federal form. This is the federal voter registration application, and Delaware does have a state form, which is similarly modeled after this. But the federal form is also an option that's available for anyone to use, with or without training, so that you don't necessarily need to be an organized voter registration participant or registrar, as we call them. Anyone can use this. There are pretty detailed instructions on the form. Probably the most important thing that we like to highlight is that on the form itself, there are instructions about obtaining identification from the applicant. And what's probably most important is that we, at a minimum, generally, if the individual may have a state ID or a driver's license, perhaps we would record that number. Certainly, at a minimum, if that's not available in terms of an identification with a number like that, we do ask for at least the last 4 digits of the Social Security number from the individual, because that is how someone's identity can be confirmed and their eligibility can be confirmed. This will save the voter. This will save the voter when they first attempt to vote, because by federal law, the National Voter Registration Act is the law. If we do receive any applications that don't have any identification information included, an individual would be asked to provide identification the first time they vote. So that this will help, to prevent that. Granted, when any individual in Delaware, by Delaware code, any individual who is voting, who is appearing at their correct polling place, at a place they're eligible to vote, if they are unable to present identification and they can be confirmed on the poll list, the voter always has the option to complete an affidavit affirming their identity as well. But this will just help with a new registrant to avoid any challenges the first time they exercise the right to vote. Okay, we can go ahead. Okay. Oh, yes, go ahead.
I'm so sorry, Anthony. I don't mean to
Please,
interrupt.
go ahead.
I just want to give you a quick little time check too, if possible, just so we have time for everything.
Sure.
I know I talked too much in the beginning. 11:30, so we got about
Oh,
3
yeah.
minutes left, if
That's
okay. I
fine.
think
That's
we should be
fine.
Perfect. I just wanted
No problem. Absolutely. The sample application that we've included on the screen here, this is also included in the organized voter registration training materials. This is the Delaware form modeled after the federal form. And as you can see in the training materials, we have the form annotated with red numerals, and that ties into information that is provided in the training about how to complete this information in a complete manner as possible. Again, this form essentially mirrors the federal form, but just has some Delaware specific language. That's what's on the back. There's a lot of text, I realize, but we try to consolidate everything in the code, all the key parts down there, so it's something that can be utilized. At any point, I always like to let everyone know, I mentioned Rebecca's name, myself, or any of the county elections offices. We're always available to assist if you have any questions at any point in completing these forms. I know over the years, individuals that I've worked with in the various organizations providing services have done a really great job in completing these forms and making sure any application is accurate and complete. But I just wanted to let you know we're always available to help. Okay, you can go ahead. Okay. Election day voting, again, I mentioned that. Again, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Again, proof of identification is requested. There is no definitive list of identification. There's no exhaustive list in Delaware. And many individuals do use a polling place card as well. We do provide those. We will have a mail-in going out just so individuals know, to all registered voters in about a month, that will have a card, including the polling place card, as well as additional voter information. And Representative Bombach's familiar with the legislation that recently expanded that and codified some practices we have been doing and added to that. So look for that in about a month. There'll be a lot of information. It also includes information not just on election day voting, but early voting. Delaware does have early voting as well. And we have a ton of information on that on our website as well. All the voting options, including election day and early voting, and absentee, certainly for those who qualify. Okay, you can go ahead. Here's our early voting info. As I mentioned, we do have 10 days of early voting. There are locations in each of our counties. The way early voting is structured, we always like to make sure everyone's familiar with this. That is a bit of a different model in that an individual registered may vote at any of the early voting sites in their county of residence. So they don't need to go to their assigned polling place, as is the case on an election day. We have 10 days. The first 5 days are 11 a.m. to 7. The last 5 days are 7 a.m. to 7. And we have links on our website, and we've expanded the number of locations, about 18 or 19 locations that are going to be coming online for this election season coming up. So a lot of options for convenience for everyone. Okay, you can go ahead. Forms of identification. Again, these are referenced in Delaware Code for a presentation when an individual votes. Again, there is not an exhaustive list. Delaware Code specifies information and provides examples, but there is not a requirement. Delaware does not require photo ID. We just like to clarify that that is not a provision in the state code. Granted, many individuals, when they do arrive at a polling place, just out of practice, will present a driver's license or state ID if they have that, but it is not required by Delaware law. Okay, you can go ahead. I do like to inform everyone of automatic voter registration. Just so everyone is aware, this has been in effect in Delaware for a little over a year now. This was legislation passed by the General Assembly back in 2021. So this states that any individual who is an eligible unregistered individual who is undertaking a qualified activity at the Department of Motor Vehicles, such as obtaining or renewing or updating a driver's license or state ID or learner's permit, will automatically be registered. We'll receive a mailing afterwards notifying them of that and providing different options for them to possibly update the record if needed, select a party, indicate if they do not wish to be registered. So it's been in effect for a little over a year. It's been very, very successful. There's been a significant increase in the number of individuals registering through the DMV, and it's been a very smooth process as well. There was a question in the chat real quick about ID, the ID, what is required. The list that we just presented is actually from the Delaware Code, which determines, or which is mentioned about what is presented when an individual arrives at a polling place to vote. In terms of registration, again, on completing the registration form, similarly, there is no exhaustive list. So we just basically need information at the time of registration that confirms the individual's identity as well as their residence. And that confirmation of residence, as I mentioned earlier, can include documentation from a facility offering services to the individual as confirmation of their residence. Okay, you can go back ahead.
There was one more question. Just want to confirm that the contact information for where people can schedule or coordinate for the training will be sent out afterwards.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll make sure we have that as well. Make sure you have Rebecca's information and Rebecca Argo on our team, and she can definitely connect you with that and get you scheduled if you're interested in training.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure. And this coming up on the end here, just would like to encourage everyone to serve as a poll worker, serve as an election officer. It's a great opportunity to learn more about the system. Again, thank our General Assembly and our Joint Finance Committee who helped us get some additional funding for a nice increase in poll worker stipends. We've asked the poll workers to do a lot. They hadn't had a raise for many years, so we're very happy that they're making more now. It's a great job. It's a lot of work, and we want to make sure people are compensated appropriately. But it's a great opportunity to encourage everyone to get involved to learn more about the system. And that should be coming up on the end. Yeah, pretty much our website. We've just finished a significant, actually a complete relaunch and revamp of our website. A ton of comprehensive information on there. All those information listed and much more. If it's on there, we have about 600 individual pages of information on our website, so it's pretty comprehensive. We have a lot, so feel free to check that out. If you ever find that you can't find something on the site, you have a question you can't answer, we have links to emails to each of our offices and phone numbers, so certainly feel free to reach out anytime you have a question. And that's it. A lot of social media presence. We push a lot of info out on social media. And again, we encourage you to reach out to us. We're here to help. We want to answer any questions that you have. So I think we made it just under time.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm going to stop my screen share real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anthony. I know
Sure.
I've been bothering you and Rebecca for quite
Oh,
a
no, not a
while.
bother at all. No
No, I think
worries.
it's a really great resource. Again, I will be following up with you too after this to make sure we have all that information, some of those really great
Sure.
things you guys are putting out too.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think there are a lot of, again, if anyone's interested and needs more information, we'll have that
Mhm.
sent out and then we'll make sure that we get you guys connected with, Anthony and Rebecca too. Thank you again so much for presenting,
Oh, my pleasure.
on that today as well too.
Thank you all for the great work you're doing. I know it's so needed. So thank you.
Thank you. And I actually do apologize. I had accidentally hopped around a little bit. So next up, we do have the Fair Housing Testing Program with Kate. I apologize, I might say this last name wrong. Caratero, our paralegal and housing advocate with Classy.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm going to be sharing my screen, so just 1 second. Okay. Is everyone able to see? Yes, okay, cool. So I am Kate Cerrito. I work at Community Legal Aid Society, and right now I'm the Fair Housing Testing Coordinator for our Fair Housing Testing Program. Used to be a housing advocate and paralegal, but recently also took on this role. And so today I'm presenting about our Fair Housing Testing Program. So for those of you not familiar with Community Legal Aid Society, we're a non-governmental, non-for-profit organization with a lot of different funding sources that help us provide legal services to Delaware's most underserved populations. Our funding for our fair housing program does come from HUD, and so that makes us the FIP for the state, the FHIP, Fair Housing Initiative Program. And so with that funding and with that title, we're kind of given the role of investigating housing discrimination and filing complaints federally and with the state when we find a basis of discrimination taking place. So just general background on fair housing. For those of you who aren't so familiar, the Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968, and it helps to protect Americans from discrimination when they're really engaging in any kind of housing related activity. So renting or buying a home, getting a mortgage, homeowners insurance, and any kind of housing assistance. So housing discrimination, is just treating one person or a group of people differently from others based on a basis of their belonging to a protected class. And so the Federal Fair Housing Act does outline 7 specific protected classes. And so as you can see here, I won't bore you with the definitions of everything, but the protected classes are race, religion, color, sex, sexual orientation and gender, familial status, disability, and national origin. And like I said, I'm not going to go through and read them all, but I'm sure these slides will be shared with you if you wanted to double back and take a look at them all. But those are the 7 outlined federally protected, but Delaware also has its own Fair Housing Act, which does encompass all 7 of these, and then additionally covers these 4 here. So source of income, creed, age, and marital status. The caveat with source of income being that it doesn't afford protections to those with a housing choice voucher or receiving federal assistance for housing, but hopefully soon. But that's for now what the Fair Housing Act covers in Delaware. So Classy's Fair Housing Program really has 2 main parts. So if somebody feels like they've been discriminated against, they can either call or visit any of Classy's 3 offices, one in Wilmington, in Kent, and then in Sussex. And they will talk to a receptionist, have a brief intake opened up for them, and then they will be assigned to a housing advocate who will investigate a little bit further, get some more information about what occurred. And then that housing advocate is able to refer the instance of discrimination over to the testing side of the Fair Housing Program. And then we can just create a test to kind of recreate the discrimination that allegedly occurred and see, if we're able to see it happen again. Sometimes, with discrimination coming through the door, sometimes we can take that complaint and just go ahead and file a complaint federally or with the state, but it's always better to have more evidence if we can get it. And so testing kind of helps bolster claims of discrimination for us and allow us to be able to make those claims a little bit stronger. And so a little bit more on testing here. It's a controlled process where a tester is either going to call or visit a housing provider posing as an interested party. So it's kind of like secret shopping. So we'll take 2 testers from our testing pool, and they'll each be given a script of what they are seeking out from this housing provider. So a 1-bedroom apartment with a rent amount that they're looking for. And we'll send 1 tester who is maybe going to be a female and 1 to be a male if the complaint was based on sex discrimination. They will each call the same housing provider, typically on the same day. So we try to make sure it's the same person that they're speaking with. And they will write a report based on the conversation that they have had. They'll go ahead and return those to me. I'll take a look at them and see if, there was discrimination occurring there for our test. Sometimes we will choose to retest. Sometimes the test is strong enough where we're able to move forward, or perhaps, no discrimination occurred at all. And then at that point, we wouldn't need to do a retest. But if it's inconclusive, we're going to go ahead and usually do a retest. And so when choosing our testers, we do want to pick 2 people who have pretty similar characteristics aside from the one that we're testing for to kind of avoid any skewed results. So here's an example of rental testing based on disability. So for example, if we have somebody call Community Legal Aid reporting that they were told they needed to pay a pet deposit for an emotional support or service animal, we're going to go ahead and create a test to see if that housing provider is doing that routinely. So when we select our 2 testers, tester A will be told that they have a pet dog that they're trying to rent an apartment for, and they're curious if there's a pet deposit. Where tester B's script would have them mention that they have an emotional support dog. And so when they write their reports and I get them back, if tester B was told that they would have to pay a pet deposit for their emotional support animal, that's raising red flags for us as a violation of the Fair Housing Act, because housing providers can't charge pet deposits for an emotional support or service animal. Okay, so here is rental testing example based on familial status. So if somebody calls Classy with a report that they were seeking a 2-bedroom apartment and the listing was for like $2,000, but when they showed up and toured the unit with their 2 children, they were told that it would really be like $3,500, definitely raising some red flags for us. So we'll go ahead and make a test. Tester A being told in their script that they're looking for a 2-bedroom for themselves and they want the 2nd bedroom as a in-office or in-home office, and tester B being told that they're looking for an apartment for them and their 2 children. So again, they're going to go ahead and call that complex or show up. Sometimes we have them go do site visits, and so they would go ahead and do their report. We get those back, we compare them and see if there's any discrimination occurring. And then if we decide, that there is, like I said, we'll go ahead and file either federally, state, or dual file. So what can stop us from doing both is if the protected class was only a Delaware protected class in the Delaware Fair Housing Act. So for instance, if it was age that they were discriminated against, because we would only be able to file that with the Delaware Division of Human and Civil Rights. Whereas if it was sex, we could go ahead and dual file it federally and state. Okay, and our testers, who are they? Members of the community. They're just contract workers that we will call on when we have a test that we need to complete. Really, to be a tester, not a lot of eligibility requirements, really just being able to, follow instructions, being impartial and observant, and being able to, have good writing skills so that they're writing those reports and we're able to clearly indicate, what's going on for that interaction. Testers go through a 2 to 3 hour training to be an eligible tester. And then when they complete a test, they're paid a stipend of $50 to $90. Right now, to do a telephone rental test, so just calling up to see, reading the script and writing their report, it's about $75 that we're paying for completing that test. And we'll also reimburse for mileage, tolls, and postage if we're having you go do a site visit. And then testers are also paid $40 for their training. And the only things that would prohibit you from being a tester is being a licensed competitor of the organization that we're testing. So really being a real estate agent, we're not gonna, pursue you as a tester, just because of your interests, in the housing market, and then having any felony convictions, because we are funded by HUD, and so we're unable to take on anybody as a tester who has any kind of fraud or perjury charges, felony. Okay, so if you know anybody who has experienced housing discrimination and would like to report it, I've listed our main office numbers there. Just have them call the coordinating office for where the discrimination occurred. And then if you or somebody who would like to be a fair housing tester, just reach out to me directly. You can email me, my email is there and my phone number is there, and I'll just send you an application. You complete the application, we do the training, you do the background check, and you're onboarded. So it's pretty straightforward. But yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, or if anyone has questions now, they can certainly ask them.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Kristen. I'm not seeing any questions just yet in the chat, but again, we'll make sure that your information is sent out. So anybody that that needs to report housing discrimination, or if you guys, if anybody has clients or coworkers or anybody they know that would be interested in being one of those testers too, it's always really important that we're having people that are out there able to interact with these providers and make sure that they aren't practicing any harmful discrimination practices. So Kate, thank you so much. That was really, really helpful. And I'm assuming you probably will be getting a lot of emails in the next couple of days too, with some people interested. And we'll make sure that we have all your information sent out as well in the follow-up. So thank you again so much.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Alrighty, and next up, we do have our Delaware Library Resources presentation. We are going to be hearing from Alta Porterfield. She is the statewide social innovator with Delaware Libraries.
Wow, it's been a lot of information, right? And unfortunately, I have a lot of information to share too. So it's all going to be too much to absorb everything. So main thing I want to get across is the back end of my email is the state portal for all the public libraries, lib.de.us. All right. Rather than doing a PowerPoint, which I've got plenty of PowerPoints that are very focused, I'm showing you a little bit about the website, and I'm not going to be able to show you everything I want to show you. But first thing I want to do is services. So here we have under services. All right. So we have Get Connected, which is actually right here. And we have the teleservices. And I actually have a video that I'm not showing because of the time, but it's National Network of Library Medicine came in and did a video of our telehealth kiosk. So we have specialists in the libraries that will help people with social services, as well as get them into a private space for them to do telehealth. And that's in 13 libraries. Then on here under services, we've got again the social services at the libraries. So it's both the specialist as well as the social workers and case managers from a community partner support unit from DSSS on that. So and that we have locations and times there on that. And so it's basically, I want you to get comfortable with going to the website and just common sense type of things, services, right? You want services for social services, teleservices. We have another one for employment. So we have people that will help with employment. Now, here's what I want to show you is on this employment. This goes for a lot of them. It says make an appointment now. So you can click this and you can get a person to call you. So you hit make an appointment and you select what it is. Either it's a private space you want to go to a library to use, or you want a person to call you about job help or social work help. You just go to this for jobs, and we'll actually do different types of things, right? You might want to go over your resume or your LinkedIn page or a mock interview or just brainstorming on what type of jobs or in all. So we'll give you a call at the time that you choose. You can upload your information and then we'll do that. So that, and then we'll also refer you to if we feel you need more hand-holding, to a library where you can actually get some more help in person too on that. So that is one thing. So let me go back to home. Sorry, guys. Okay. And then as far as other services I have on here, which is really great about this website is it's packed full of information, but sometimes you'll find the information in two different places, which is great because when you file things, sometimes one person will think one way, another person will think another way. So on here we have North Star Digital Literacy. And in this meeting today, I have two of my AmeriCorps Vistas. One of them is Ray, and Ray is actually with doing the digital literacy piece. So Alex is also with Healthy Futures. So if you have a desire for your team to learn more about our services in the libraries, please contact me and I'll set up a time for them to go virtually over different information or myself go over information because our time is very limited right now, right? So anyways, North Star is a way for a person to go on the computer to be able to get online computer classes. And you can even get proctored virtually where we will go ahead and certify that you took this class and you'll get a certification for this. Completely free. You would just go ahead and choose a library or choose your county first. It's odd, I didn't click at a mess. Okay, sorry. And then you just choose your library. So let's say it's Appaquiddick. And all you need to do to sign up as a learner is you just put in your first name, last name, email address, and that you're not a robot, and that's it. You are now able to take classes and get certifications and all that. If anyone is interested in learning more about this, please reach out to us and we can get your whole department or agency or organization to be able to do this completely free on that. My whole thing about the libraries is we have all these wonderful resources that your tax dollars are paying for. So we want the organization not to have to pay for it again for some of these resources, just use our resources. So back to the beginning, let me just back there. Oops. Okay, guys, sorry. I clicked out too much. All right. Very sorry, people. All right, that was an error, and I'm always when you're tight on time, you're trying to step through things too quickly. Okay, so we also have other types of online resources. So that's what I'm trying to focus on a lot onto this particular part is e-media. And it goes over a lot of things. So I'm sure you're all familiar. We have resources for ebooks and audiobooks and all that. But the other thing is we actually have things like Canopy. So Canopy is for movies like Netflix that you don't have to pay for, right? We have Flipster, which is magazines. People can look at magazines online, and we have over 60 magazines, and we archive for many years in the past, and you can actually search for different articles you might want to do. So that's all on here, and you just would click. Some of our resources you're going to need to have a library card. So I'm going to show you a resource that needs a library card, and then I'm going to show you how easy it is to get a library card. It's almost as easy as North Star, where you just need an email. So let's go to Research and Learn. And I love, love, love Learning Express. There's a lot of on here that we love, but we got seconds here to go over it. Learning Express, you need a library card. And the reason why is, well, that's not even working. All right, scratch that. I'm not going to, I don't have my library loaded. Everything I'm doing today is not working. All right, so the deal is that with a library card, you would just go on to our website and there's a place that says library card, a whole tab, and you would just go ahead and pull that up. And all you need to do is put in your name, your address, and your phone number and your email, and you can get a virtual card. They will accept a shelter for the virtual card. Most of the libraries will have some type of temporary card if you're in a shelter. Newcastle County libraries have a what is it called? A transient residential card. So they all have a different term for their cards itself, but they will make arrangements for that. And people can actually pick up their cards at the library itself and all that. And I saw just a new message. So thank you, Sophia. I know that the time is short, so I didn't want to take up much more time. Is there other information people want to go over? Because main thing I want to express is please email me. I'll do a much better job, or some of my staff will do a much better job than that I've done today.
Hey, Alta, I just had a quick question. You had mentioned earlier that the libraries across the state are also like letting people in for like polling stations and stuff. I didn't know if you could provide a little bit more information on that. And if you have any information on any of the current like library policies on being able to bring in belongings and stuff. A lot of our population
Right.
can be unsheltered and
Right.
may have book bags and things like that. So I didn't know if there is anything relevant to be able to speak on that.
Okay. This is where I need a lot more time than 10 minutes. So I work for the Division of Libraries, and I always say Delaware Libraries because my team works with the public libraries and the partners. As far as answering so the services I was showing you were statewide. Online resources, online type of things. We've got Chromebooks and that you can take out, and hotspots to take out of the library. As far as particular policies, each library has its own governance. The state will give them a lot of money and funding and support and all, but we're not telling them they have to do X, X, and X. All right. So that Newcastle County has 10 libraries within their system. Some of the libraries are just one city, and so the policies do change. And sometimes the management within the libraries, you get a new director, and maybe some of those policies will change. So I can't answer your question completely. I don't like to say that libraries are a cooling station because we're not offering water per se. Some libraries might offer water. Some libraries are offering food. Some libraries are offering a great deal of services on top of my staff that are there. There's 13 libraries that have teleservice specialists as well as other people there. As far as what I'm saying is the libraries are open. We're not closing the doors. You don't have to show an ID to get in. You can come in, you can sit down, you can relax, rest. Some libraries have the requirement that you cannot fall asleep at your chair, but some others are just letting that go. So I'm just saying that we're looking to help people, and we're wanting to help people on that. So I'm sorry it was a vague answer. I'm like tiptoeing around that type of thing. Other questions that people have? We have a tremendous amount of services, and so that I really do want you to reach out to me so I can go ahead and help with any other questions you might have. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Alta. If you're able to actually, I'll make sure that it goes out when I send it out with the materials, but if you maybe wouldn't put your email in the chat, that would be really
Sure.
great.
Yep.
I know when we had talked about earlier too, we had a bit of a longer meeting, but even then, there is so many amazing resources that you guys as the Delaware libraries offer. So I think really kind of like the main takeaway point too is just that for so many different people on this call here, for whether it's yourself individually or also for your clients, there's so many really great free resources that I think would be really beneficial for a multitude of people, whether it's the Employment Center, which I actually utilized way back when. I had a lovely gentleman named Carl help me write my resume. So they have job and employment assistance. They have those great appointments when you can do for the social services. I also saw legal counseling as well. And libraries are free. And I know when you get a little bit downstate, it's a little tougher, but at least I know up here with Newcastle County, they're typically very accessible, whether it's on a walking distance or on a bus route. So I love libraries, as we can tell. It's a really great free resource. You guys offer a multitude of services, some that I was not aware of that I think would be great. And I think that, again, anybody who's interested in learning more, Alta was amazing. Thank you again so much. I'm sure she would love to connect with you guys and talk a bit more about some of those services that would maybe be applicable for one individual project as well, or program. So again, Alta, thank you so much. You were so helpful. And I'm sure you will be getting a very busy, your inbox will be very busy in the next couple of days soon too.
Good, good. And I promise to do better. I don't know why my Zoom was not cooperating. So
It always works until it doesn't want
Until-
to.
until-
Not
until it
even the
doesn't,
biggest
exactly.
meeting or the most attended every time. No, I completely understand. Yeah, thank you again so much. And so we are running a little bit short on time as well. So just for the sake of time, I'm going to try to go very quickly through the next couple of items. We have just some upcoming events and announcements. I will be sending out much more information about this in the next event too, so very quickly, but we have our membership drive coming up. It is launching September 1st. All CoC members need to renew their membership form. So if you've already been a CoC member, you need to go ahead and renew that. Membership form is available on our website, and any new members as well would also need to sign up too, and that needs to be completed ideally before September 30th. So keep an eye out for your emails. You'll be seeing something sooner. Again, another thing just to kind of mark your calendars, keep an eye out for is our CoC annual membership meeting. It's going to be in October this upcoming year. More details as far as the exact date, time, location will be released coming out soon. And we'll also have our 2024 annual report there as well too. So any questions about the annual meeting or our membership drive, please reach out to me directly. And this is the last topic we have, and I'm actually going to hand it over to Jessica. She is our CoC program specialist to talk about an upcoming training we have.
Just real quick, thank you to Classy again for getting over the save the date for us real quick. So we do have an upcoming training on September 16th. It will be from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. This will be a fair housing and equal access training available for everyone. This will focus on fair housing practices, race and ethnicity, disability, LGBTQ expression, sexual and gender expression identity. We will have registration information to come out hopefully soon. And then just, keep an eye out for any emails from us and register when you see it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And again, I think we'll be posting this on our website most likely soon. Registration will be sent out. And again, everybody is welcome to attend, but this is also required for CoC funded project staff. And then again, strongly recommended for all ESG funded project staff. But that is all that we had for everybody today. Again, any general questions, please send them on over to me. I will make sure that everybody has all the slides and materials when we send out the meeting follow-ups, which would probably be going out, if not today, then more like first thing tomorrow. But before we finish and wrap up, does anybody have anything else that they'd want to talk about, whether it's an upcoming event or announcement that they have from their agency they would like to share? Any questions about any of the topics we covered today? Just want to kind of open the floor up for everybody for the last few minutes.
Hi, Sophia. This is Terry Williams. I do want to announce my church and my organization, Terry M. Williams Expansion, is having a back to school outreach giveaway on Sunday, August the 11th. It's from 12 to 4 at 750 Ox Chapel Road in Newark. And I would love if anyone would like to come and table their information. We're also accepting donations for uniforms. We want to give out some uniforms as well as school supplies. And we're looking for about 5 to 10 volunteers. So if anyone would like to participate or donate, please reach out to me. We'd love to have you. And our church is Life Community Church, and my organization is Terry M. Williams Expansion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. If you have like any flyers or any information materials, please send them over to me too. I'd love to send that out with some of the meeting materials and follow up after today as well too, for anyone who's interested.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. And it also looks like Carolyn with Family Promise also put a couple of events in the chat. I'm nervous to click on it now just because I don't want to lose the screen, but it looks like there's a fall festival and then also something in down the beach for a 2nd anniversary celebration. I need glasses, so it's a little tough for me to see, but looks like some very fun new events coming out too. And Carolyn, I'll make sure that they were included in the meeting follow-ups as well too. Thank you.
I will say it looks like one of the events is today from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. At the Dewey Beer Co. in, what is that, Harbison?
Yes, it's our second anniversary.
Yay, congrats.
Thanks.
Oh, that is exciting. I wish I could make it. If I could have gone made it down there in time, I would have loved to. That sounds great. Awesome. And then
I
this one-
will, sorry, I'll provide a quick update really quick in relation to CoC funding. The update is that we are still waiting for HUD to release this year's NOFO. And I know we're at that time frame where we're usually expecting all the communications about that. So just wanted to provide an update that there is no update as of yet, and we will put it out as soon as we receive that notification. So I know some people on the call are waiting to hear about new project information, and we have some renewal projects on. We will be forthcoming with timelines as soon as we get them.
Thank you, Erin. I was going to say, I know I am anxiously refreshing my email inbox and the one HUD page, and I'm sure a lot of other people are as well too. So as soon as we hear something, we'll make sure that that gets sent out.
Sophie, I just wanted to remind everybody that they're all welcome to attend the monthly general membership meeting of the Sussex Housing Group. And if they would like an invitation for that, they can email me and I will be happy to send them the calendar invite. I'll put my email in the chat. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Susan. I was just about to say if you want to throw that in there. But yeah, thank you again, everybody, so much for attending. We are at time, so I will let everybody get back to what I'm sure is, I know everybody's very busy, especially midweek, but thank you again so much for everybody for attending. If anybody does have any additional questions or comments, feel free to hang back. But yeah, thank you again, everybody, so much. It was great to have everybody attend, and hopefully you guys found all the information as useful as I know I did. So thank you again, everybody.